I own a few cameras.
And about a year ago, or back in that decade we call the 20-teens or the 2010s, I bought a 5D Mark IV, and if you're a regular viewer of this channel, that will come as no surprise to you. And yeah, point being, you read the title of this video, I honestly think this camera has made me a better photographer, but not like instantly. I didn't get better the moment I bought it. Consumerism isn't that good yet. Happy New Year! And also happy 1,000 subscribers. To celebrate the new year and the subscriber goal we just reached, I thought I'd combine together two videos that I generally dislike into one. So this video is going to be a mix of a camera collection kind of video with a what's in my bag video. And yeah, I don't usually like these types of videos because they so often end up being just glorified lists without much substance really. And so perhaps in my own naivety, I'm going to strive to make something better, at least something that isn't just a list. Because I think there's at least one question that can be answered by combining these two videos together, and that is the question that the title of this video sort of asked for. How does a camera make you better at photography? And just before I start making my way through all of my cameras, I thought I'd give you the short answer first. Every single camera has its own way of working, its own style or personality per se. Apparently we've crossed that line now. I'm personifying my cameras. Wow. So now that we've addressed that, let's move on to the cameras. And that begins with perhaps the most notably stylistic cameras which I own, my Polaroid cameras. I have two. The Polaroid Spectra System MB and the Polaroid One Step Plus. Polaroids are absolutely the most fun that you can have with a camera. That is undeniable, but they are tricky. They're hard to use for anything serious because the film is super temperamental. And on top of that, they're just ergonomically disastrous. I mean, look at this shape. It's a thing. But all of those flaws are really what make Polaroid cameras the best cameras for capturing personal moments, because it's not a normal camera. You have very little to no control and you only have a few shots. It really forces you to be in the moment, to take more portraits or very simple landscape pictures, because there's not really much to be distracted by. From there we move on to my other stylized cameras, which begins with my drone, the DJI Mavic Pro. And probably the most important thing about this camera here is that it's a drone. It flies. That definitely affects the kind of images that I get with it. I particularly like the bird's eye view, straight down kind of shot. I think it's really cool. Then we have my iPhone. Just like the drone, it serves another function in that it's a phone. I use it all the time and I pretty much only shoot in a portrait orientation. Following that, we have my Handycam, which is useful for getting shots like they do in the office. I really like doing servo zooms with this camera. It is so much fun. I only ever use it when I want servo zoom or when I want that Handycam kind of aesthetic. Then we have my 35mm film cameras, and my favorite of which is my most recently acquired camera, the Canon EOS 3000. Because it's an SLR, the way in which you can shoot with it is very diverse depending on what lens you put on it. But there is a major problem with that, and that's that it's got a plastic lens mount, which means I get incredibly scared about putting heavy lenses on this camera, which unfortunately generally limits me to using wide and standard lenses, with my tightest lightweight lens being a 50mm lens. Following that, we have a camera that I've owned for slightly longer, which is a Canon Autoboy Tele. I love the sound that it makes. It's a point and shoot camera with two focal lengths, which is super nice because you don't usually get that with a point and shoot. It's pocketable. It sort of fits in this pocket. It's a really good camera in a pinch, but it's not as point and shoot as one would hope, because you still have to somehow figure out how the metering and the autofocus works. And it's a rangefinder camera. And because of that, I never know with certainty what shot I'm gonna get. To wrap up my 35mm cameras, we have these two SLRs, the Yashica FX3 Super 2000 and the Minolta SRT 101, which, if anything, these are the cameras that I'm most sentimental about, because this was my grandfather's and this is my mother's or my auntie's. They're still not quite sure whose it was. Both cameras are quite heavy. The Minolta is from the 60s and all of it is made of metal and glass, and it is really heavy, which makes them a bit annoying to lug around with all that weight. They also don't have autofocus like my other two 35mm cameras, and they don't have any auto metering. It is completely manual, which is quite nice when that's what you want. It really makes you slow down and focus. Similar to shooting Polaroid, except not at all, because you actually have control. And finally, we have my digital cameras, which I have to begin. The first ever digital camera I ever really used, the Canon PowerShot SD20. It is the purest point and shoot camera that I've ever used, and I was pretty gutted when I broke it a couple of years ago. You do need good light for it to work, or you can use the built-in flash at night. It's 5 megapixels, but that's all you really need for a point and shoot. And because it's so tiny, on a screen this small, all you can really do is point and shoot, and it's so much fun. I really miss using this camera. After that, we have the first camera that I actually ever owned, the Fujifilm FinePix S2950. I honestly didn't know much about photography when I bought this camera. I just bought it because it looked bigger than a normal point and shoot, and I thought that would make it a better camera, which it wasn't really. Photography wise, this camera wasn't that great, but what I did enjoy with it was its video mode and that good old servo style zoom. It's actually the camera that I filmed my very first few YouTube videos on. Next up, we have my first ever professional camera, my first DSLR, the Canon EOS 600D, which I bought in late 2012 and I still use now at the start of 2020. The best part of the design of this camera by far is this, the tilty flippy screen. With the screen on this camera, I learned to shoot exposing my photographs using the live view rather than any histograms or meters, which was an interesting phase, but it taught me a lot about exposure without actually doing it properly. After the 600D, I got myself the Sony a7S Mark II, which was a brilliant camera. I really did enjoy it, except the photographs from it were just terrible. They purposefully designed this camera to have less megapixels so that it could, you know, be a killer nighttime camera and go up to 102,400 ISO or something like that. One of the most brilliant things about the design of the A7 cameras are the EVFs. They are incredible. It's a very nice thing to have in mirrorless, especially for video shooting, having that camera up against your face. It's really a great camera, and some of the footage that I shot on the a7S II is still in my cinematography show reels. So it was incredible for filming, especially so at nighttime. And finally, we conclude my camera collection with the camera in the title of this video, the camera that I'm shooting this with right now, the Canon EOS 5D Mark IV. It is a beast at photography. Every part of this camera was designed and optimized for taking photos. The 5D Mark IV has one of the best optical viewfinders, and this camera has taught me a lot about metering and taught me a lot about photography in general. And because this camera is optimized for photography, it is such a pleasurable and fun experience taking photographs with it. Even when I hand this camera to friends of mine who don't really take photos, they really enjoy the experience of it. Whereas with my other cameras, they'd get sort of annoyed with me making them take photos of me for my Instagram. That's a benefit. Really, the 5D Mark IV, if anything, has improved my Instagram feed dramatically. So yeah, that's the camera collection part of this video done. And now we're gonna very seamlessly transition into the next bit, which is all about what's in my bag. This is the camera bag that I take absolutely everywhere with me. It's the Lowepro Pro Tactic 350AW, the name's on the back. It's really heavy and really tough. And if you know me personally, you know this bag. So I thought, why not take a look through what I carry on me pretty much every day, or at least every time I go outside. And to keep this quick, because oh my god, this video is already about 9 minutes long, I've also separated this stuff into categories. First off, I almost always carry some type of entertainment for myself in my bag. Being behind the camera is usually fun enough, but sometimes I have to sit and wait or deal with public transport. So it is a highly necessary thing for me to have. And at the moment, that takes the form of a notebook, my headphones, and a novel. Next up, we have my computer stuff, which is quite simple really. I have my laptop, my hard drives, and a card reader so I can back up and edit on the go. And finally, we have my camera equipment, which varies quite a lot, but my favorite kit to bring with me at the moment includes the EOS 3000, the 5D Mark IV, the 35mm f2, 70-200 f4, audio equipment in the form of a VideoMic Pro, a SmartLav Plus, and an iPhone with a headphone jack, as well as the Atomos Shinobi and a travel tripod. Altogether, this makes a really solid kit. I can edit and shoot on the go, no problem. I do have a few missing focal lengths, but most of the time I'm quite fine with that. I guess the point that I'm trying to make with this video is that gear does and doesn't matter. The design of a camera fundamentally affects how you shoot with it. It doesn't necessarily force you to shoot in a particular way, it more so nudges you in that direction. And that's the reason why I own all of these different types of cameras, because I don't always want to be shooting in the same way, in the same style. I want to be doing different things on different days, especially with making YouTube videos. Every camera has its own limitations and its own biases, and you sort of have to learn how to work with that camera to get the shots that you desire. But don't take that to mean you have to buy certain cameras for certain styles, because honestly, you saw the images in this video. With all of these cameras, I've gotten some really nice shots that I'm really quite proud of. I made a point of only featuring good shots in this video because, well, mostly because I'm trying to get more clients. But anyways, point being, as Chase Jarvis famously said, the best camera is the one that's with you. The 5D Mark IV has led me into shooting more photographs than ever since purchasing it, just by being a camera that's a pleasure to shoot photographs with. And really, practice makes perfect. The more you shoot, the better a photographer you become. And honestly, the camera that I use second most frequently to my 5D Mark IV is my iPhone. So what does that say about me? I don't really know, and I don't really think that matters, because what actually matters is that the title to this video was not clickbait. The 5D Mark IV actually did make me a better photographer by making me shoot more, so you can't complain in the comments. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like this, you can hit that subscribe button. You can even smash it if you want to, you know, notification bell, and you know what to do. You've watched YouTube before, at least you probably have. I mean, it'd be pretty amazing if this is the first YouTube video you've ever watched. I promise you, they get better than this. Thanks for watching. I will see you whenever I next make a video. Bye. That scared me. Oh no, it got in my drink.